Today we're going to talk about how to do Bhastrika and live a full power life. So what do we mean by, if we do this practice, how do we live a full power life? Because we're working with the breath. And the breath, when we breathe, we bring in oxygen, but the oxygen also carries the electricity. It's what animates us. It's what switches us on. So in yoga, we call that prana. Sometimes it's called chi or ki. In science, they might call it bioenergy. But the more electricity that we have, the more full-powered life that we live. And what switches the power down, what limits it, is our beliefs and attitudes, our stories and our patterns that keep us playing small, that keep us in our lane, doing what we're expected to do. So in this practice, what it does is it works with the main breathing muscle, which is your diaphragm. And when you do that, it's going to bring in more oxygen, but it's going to bring in more electricity. The question is then, what are you going to do with that electricity? Because if you're uncomfortable with it, if you're uncomfortable with being bigger, if you're uncomfortable with showing up more in your power, more in your heart, in your compassion, your love, if you're uncomfortable showing up with your wisdom, then that bigger energy, we squeeze on it. And when you squeeze on energy, it feels like charge. And charge is uncomfortable, so we do our usual ways of getting rid of the excess energy of my bigness. Chocolate cake, over-exercise, over-sex, alcohol, drugs, arguments, take your pick. We all have our favorite, but we discharge the energy so we come back to something that's known. So remember, this process, we're going to build the energy, but you also have to have something in place where you can expand into that energy. And really, there's three things that are needed. First one is you need the right teachers and mentors around you. You need the right practice. And you also need the right community. You want to have people around you that are supporting you, that like you, showing up more in your power, in your heart, in your wisdom. Okay, so the practice. We want to learn to isolate the diaphragm muscle. Now, most people, when you ask them to take a deep breath, they actually reverse breathe and breathe up into the chest. So we're not really using the diaphragm then. It's reverse breathing, and it's a strategy in a way to keep smaller. Sometimes we collapse on the diaphragm, sometimes we lock it, sometimes it's just braced. So sometimes there's stuff that needs to happen beforehand, and that's why we do the asana, to free up the diaphragm, but also body work can help. But really, to get the best out of this practice, you need access to your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is a big muscle. It goes front to back all the way around. And what we're doing it's an active inhale and an active exhale. And it's not, so to speak, stimulating, because it's equal inhale, equal exhale, but it's building energy. So you can do the diaphragm from the front. Often Bhastrika is taught from the front. So as I inhale, the belly would go out. As I exhale, the belly would come in. It's often taught that way, but it's more effective and more powerful for a lot of the practices to do it from the sides. So as I inhale, the sides of the diaphragm would go out. And as I exhale, they would move back in towards each other. What we're also doing later on when we combine Bhastrika into Kriya is that we're directing the energy to certain parts of the body, and more specifically to the parts where it tends to knot up, what we would call in yoga the granthis, the knots. So let's first of all start here, and we'll do it at the belly. So sometimes putting your hand here as biofeedback is useful. And we're going to inhale, the belly will go out. Exhale, the belly will go in. And something about this slower rhythm of the movement of the diaphragm. Okay? Active inhale, active exhale. It's tending to bring more energy down into our engine room, down into the gut, the lower three centers. When we do it here, as I inhale, diaphragm out to the side, exhale, active, my thumbs go back towards each other. So when I do a little faster, all right, cool. It takes a little bit of time to isolate like this, and like any muscle, if you haven't used it for a while, it takes a little bit of repetition and practice to get it to switch on. because we say, okay, diaphragm, go out to the sides, and nothing happens. So the nervous system has to be able to pick it up, and that is through repetition. Oftentimes you'll see the practice done quickly. So for example, if I do it at the front, it might be like this. And faster is not necessarily better, because if you do it faster and you don't get the equal rhythm, then it's counterproductive to what you're trying to, the result you're trying to get. If you can use the muscles correctly and do a little bit faster, it's a little bit more stronger. But in saying that, stronger, for a lot of us, we struggle with stronger. So I recommend doing, 3 rounds of 20 or 30 to start with. Do 2 rounds at the belly, 1 round at the diaphragm. So 1 round would look like this if I do it of 20. Usually at the end, I take a deep breath and I apply the bandhas. You can look at another video on how to do the bandhas, but it kind of seals it in the body. So we do a chin lock, we draw up on the middle of the pelvic floor and firm the abdomen. And then when you're ready without strain, you can exhale. Now, as you build energy, what's the first thing that happens? So energy is heat. The first thing that's going to happen is you're going to start removing the poisons out of the body. Now, poison can seem extreme. We could use the word toxins, but when we play small, when we live a less energetic life, when we make ourselves energetically less, then the functions of the body can't do their thing, right? The perfect programming in the cells doesn't get electricity and they can't do their role. So this builds poison in the body. What happens is you start to clear it out. So you purify, 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 purify. And when that happens, the magic can start to happen, because then that heat becomes a more subtle heat, what we might call a psychic heat. And that begins to melt away the avidya, the ignorance, the belief patterns, the stories, the attitudes that we talked about before that keep us smaller. And when we can let go of those things, we can open to more and more possibility. We can be bigger. We can show up in a bigger way. And that's the cool thing about it. Later on, we can work with the grantis, the knots, and we do certain mudras. The mudras are ways to direct energy. It's called Granti Badana. Have a look for it in a further video down the track. But master this first, and when you can master it, we can start to use mudras, to start directing energy to these main power centers and push that energy through the knots. When you are doing this practice, if you are detoxifying and it's a lot, then just slow it down, drink lots of water, look after yourself. If you're already struggling with life, if it's challenging for you, you're not flowing with life and you're resisting it, it's not good to put more energy into a system that's already struggling. So days you notice like that, it's not so good to do. Sometimes if you're at an ashram and you're captive by the guru and they're supporting you and holding you, or you might be at a yoga retreat and the teacher's there and they can support you through the process, fine. But by yourself, it's not necessarily a great thing to do. So let's do 1 round to finish up of diaphragm at the front, 1 round at the sides. I'll do the Mahabandha, the chin lock, the root lock, and firming the abdomen for each round. And you can do with me. We're going to do 20 for each one. We're going to do the pace of leg. Okay, so we're ready? Start at the front. First one, 20. Take a deep breath. Chin lock, root lock, firm the abdomen. When you're ready, release, 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 and exhale. So it's sealing the energy in the body, the electricity. First of all, purification. Secondly, to remove the avidya. Here, which you would combine with mudras later to work more at the heart center, and the knot, which is kind of around the roof of the mouth area. At the sides, I'll put my thumbs here. You can use it as biofeedback, but once you get it, you can drop the thumbs. We'll do 20 and then Mahabandha. Let's begin. Inhale. Chin lock root from the abdomen. Release the locks, exhale. Again, 3 rounds is plenty to start with. You can build those rounds up to, multiple rounds, 7, 10, even 20. But it does build a lot of energy in your system. And you've got to ask yourself, are you ready to step up? Are you ready to live a bigger life? Are you ready to show up in a much bigger way? And if you are, this is a great practice to do. So if you're finding value in what we're doing, please subscribe, share, and comment. I'll see you on the next video. One-handed namaste, shaka, peace.